I'll finish my thought, please.
Sheila?
Inside
Sheila?
made it like 70 years.
Oops.
Oops. I closed out the wrong way.
Oh, that's okay. It's right there on the same page. So we'll just do this.
I know, I'm worried about how I'm gonna do this.
Secret eyes.
Oh, you got your sheet.
I do have my sheet. Oh, when we get to the consent agenda, though, that's where I can get into like craziness.
Maybe, right there.
One, we'll just click on for the agenda.
What do we click on?
Click on the agenda.
She's got it.
Oh, you're good.
You're
You're
good.
good.
But
All you
then I
gotta-
want- just
all you
click
gotta
on
do
these
is
when I
this.
get this.
It's new technology. I'm the old man on the boards.
I need a rope. Mark it again.
Open up. See, I bookmarked it on my
Depends on what you
bookmark.
like to do.
What did you do?
I bookmarked it on my book, so when I accidentally close it, I can figure it out.
Oh, is that something I might be worried about?
I like how they
You
shoot
ready,
the
everybody?
balls. Sorry.
Good evening. We are going to call the Novi Board of Education regular meeting to order. Tonight is Thursday, November 16th. If we can all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If I can get a motion for the approval of tonight's agenda, please.
So moved?
Do we have support? Recommended by Mr. Smith and supported by Mrs. Roney. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. First, we'll start off with our Student Board Representative Report. Welcome, Jennifer.
Hi,
Hi.
happy to be here. So, to start off with, I want to talk about two main topics today, which are the High School Advisory Board Summary Report, as well as the Wildcat Leaders Committee for the elementary schools. So to start off with, Mr. Micah has been having these advisory boards in the high school, middle school, and Meadows, and I have been able to attend the high school one. That was October 16th or 19th, I believe. And at the advisory board, I was able to summarize what the high school students had said, and some of the main highlights from the advisory board were the new renovations in the high school. So the field house has been painted gray and black to give off this fresh new look to students, as well as an intimidating look to the opposing sports teams. There's a lot of positive feedback about the field house, which I think is really nice. And there's also new coats of paints in the bathroom, which give like a cleaner look. And that's something Mr. Meinke had pointed out, that was something that the advisory board had talked about last year, which he had put into place, which I think is really, really nice. They look great. And I heard that there are new sinks coming along with the bathrooms. And finally, I think the biggest surprise for the students was the new lunch tables that we had found in the cafeteria rooms. So the new furniture includes these lunch couches, which are really comfortable, and the high top tables, Novi stamped lunch tables, and these LED lit 2x2 cubbies with charging ports inside all along the high school's cafeteria, which I think really gives this nice, comfortable cafeteria feeling. So in addition to the new renovations, the students talked about more enforced e-hall passes, and the students believe that the more enforced e-hall pass, which is a technology-based passing system where teachers can request students to come into their advisories or their classrooms during passing time, as well as for students to be able to travel to the bathroom or to the main hall, to main office more easily. And students had mentioned how this e-hall pass system calls for minimizing student tardiness, as well as for advisory, students can make a pass ahead of time, which gives the students a clear purpose as to why they're traveling to that advisory. And so students don't really just go to advisories just to hang out with their friends. They have a more clear purpose as to why they're going to the advisories. And finally, the freshmen at the advisory boards, they highlighted how inclusive and welcoming the high school was with all the extra career opportunities. So the choices they had mentioned were like HOSA and DECA, but they also talked about volunteer opportunities such as Interact Club and Operation Smile, but also all the new interest groups that are coming along in the high school, such as the ASL Club, TED Novi, and Novi Cuban Club. So that was a lot of the highlights that the students had mentioned during the advisory boards, but again, there were some suggestions that were mentioned at the advisory boards as well. And the first one would be the lunch lines, and students believe that for lunches such as pizza and nachos, that they're getting quite long lines at the start of lunch, and they were thinking of ways to minimize it, such as like a self-serving station, or just having more lunch ladies serving those meals. Now, between the time of that advisory board meeting and now, I have noticed that there are changes to the nacho lines. They have turned the second station into another nacho line as well, so the crowd for the nachos are moving through faster. And I think another suggestion that was mentioned was schedule requirements and additional class options. So this would mean that students will like a wider range of options for their classes, such as having maybe an ASL class to take as a second language, or maybe even considering a computer science class as a second language. Now moving on to my second topic. So while Mr. Micah has advisory boards in the high school, middle school, and Meadows, I think I want to have one in the elementary schools because I think it would be really nice to hear their voices. And I have gotten this idea approved from the elementary school principals, and I am working to move this opportunity into the elementary schools, and I wanted to talk to you more about it today. So I've changed the name from advisory board to Wildcat Leaders Committee, and this will basically be a committee of 2 to 3 students from each elementary school that will serve as representatives, and they will come together to discuss certain topics and create action plans regarding topics to help them promote in their schools. So the topics will range from like school spirits to kindness to learning and like March's Reading Month. So an example meeting would be, if we're talking like school spirits, we would talk about how we can improve school spirit in our schools. So for example, students would come in with some like school spirit week ideas that they really like, maybe like sweater day or no backpack day. And at that meeting we would discuss and we would combine together our idea for like a good spirit week for elementary school students, and from there I will present that spirit week idea to the elementary school principals in hopes that we can implement that spirit week. So as you can see, we will discuss and then we'll create action plans that we can move forward with at our meetings. And another topic might be kindness. So beforehand, students will come and they will talk about moments of kindness they've seen at their school days, and then at the meeting we'll discuss how we can promote kindness amongst our peers. All of these discussions I plan to be led by me, and this whole idea is to foster an environment of creativity and safe environment for the students so that they can improve their thoughts about how we can improve the school and the district, as well as learn how to advocate for themselves and what they believe in, as well as be leaders in their own communities. So again, like I had mentioned, I had gotten this idea approved by the elementary school students, and I am working to move this into process. So the application process will look similar to me sending out a video message and a flyer to the elementary school principals so that they can show it to their teachers, and the parents and the students will have to fill out a Google form where they can submit their responses as to why they would like to join the Wildcat Leaders Committee. And from there, I will select based on the quality of the responses as well as their availability to commit to this activity. As you can see with the meeting dates, I do plan to set them to 2 to 3 Fridays of the month. So there are going to be Fridays after school. I am trying to get the location set, but there are going to be Fridays after school. So yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Great job. And I love seeing how you're mentoring the younger generation of leaders and acting as a role model for them. So keep up the great work, and we love having you here and hearing what you're doing out in the schools. Okay, we'll move on to reports to the board, and first on our agenda is the M-STEP data report, and I'll turn it over to Mr. Micah.
Can I request that maybe we flip the 2 reports? Is that a problem?
I don't think that's a problem. They're both on the agenda, so
Okay.
that would be fine. We will first move to the robotics report.
Great.
Mr. Micah.
I'd like to turn it over to Miss Janet Bloom. I know she's here with the robotics team, and Frog Force is here to talk a little bit about all of the amazing things that they're doing.
Thank you so much. I try to keep my time because I know we're very time limited. But again, Janet Bloom, sponsorship mentor with the Frog Force robotics team. Hard to believe it's been 11 years that I've been part of the program. My son graduated 2017, see the value, so I'm still here fighting the good fight with the team. But I'm excited to turn it over to the students and let them talk about their accolades. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are we ready to start?
Yeah, go ahead.
Absolutely.
Welcome.
You're ready to go.
Yeah.
Hi everyone, my name is Kaushik and I'm a junior at Novi High School and I'm the team president and sponsor relations group lead of Frog Force Novi High School's robotics team.
Hi, I'm Sanjit Urupa. I'm a senior and I'm the software lead of the robotics team.
Hi, I'm Divya Desai. I'm a junior and I'm the outreach lead.
Hi, I'm Nishan, and I'm the game-specific design lead.
We are very excited to share our new and upcoming adventures with you. FIRST stands for Inspiration and Recognition of Science and Technology. How FIRST works is that partners students of FIRST teams with mentors from local corporate sponsors for the mentors to guide the students to build, design, and program a robot. Then, the robots will compete against other teams as robots in a sports-like setting. FIRST gives students hands-on STEM skills and soft skills such as team building, communication, finances, and computer programming. So we are Frog Force, Novi High School's Hall of Fame FIRST robotics team. Our mission is to motivate and educate students to obtain real-world team building, engineering, finance, and marketing, and other useful soft skills. Our work on and off the field has resulted in several successes in the past season. This includes winning the Innovation Control Award at one of our district competitions, as well as winning the Excellence in Engineering Award at 3 of our competitions last year, including the first in Michigan State Championship. The Excellence in Engineering Award celebrates a team whose design process was approached professionally as it will be in the industry. We've also won at the DTE division at the first in Michigan State Championships, having us ranked 7th out of 479 teams in the state of Michigan. Additionally, we've had one of our students, Sanjit Urupa, win the Dean's List Award. This award celebrates a student who's dedicated much of his time as well as leadership towards this team.
In the game, teams compete 3-on-3 with random pairings. At the end of the qualification matches, the top 8 teams can select 2 other alliance partners to go into the eliminations. This season was called Charged Up, as you can see in the video here. The game revolved around picking up inflatable cones and cubes and placing them on that back structure called the grid. At the end of the game, the last 30 seconds are called end game, where teams can balance on a charge station to earn extra points. Here's a video showcasing the robot we designed for this season called the Krashin Machine, which was named after one of our programming mentors. We can drive our agile robot at 18 feet per second in any direction while simultaneously spinning around to avoid defenders. It can pick up the 2 very different looking game elements with the same mechanism, allowing for a lot more versatility. We've also implemented state-of-the-art computer vision and trajectory following algorithms, enabling the robot to have an autopilot, taking the load off of the drivers. Below, you can see a clip showcasing one of our autonomous routines. This takes place in the first 15 seconds of the match and is fully pre-programmed instructions. We use advanced techniques like sensor fusion and localization to avoid terrain on the field and still are able to score those pieces.
The season kicks off with a game announcement during the first week of January where we split off and brainstorm ideas for mechanisms and functions of our robot. We designed our robot using industry standard CAD programs to design a 3D model of our robot and its subsystems, allowing us to fabricate parts using CNC mills and 3D printers and iterate quickly. These steps are identical to those used in real-world engineering fields and are what allow us to build competitive robots year after year. Now that you know how we designed a robot, here are some of its coolest features. We use a swerve drivetrain, which gives us immeasurable maneuverability And we also specifically chose to use the same mechanism to both pick up and place both different game pieces this year. We also chose our fixed angle elevator to make lineup for scoring game elements easier, and we have which is supported by our, This is enabled by a suite of cameras and sensors that is used by our programming team. In addition, our pneumatically actuated claw changes our scoring angle and makes scoring extremely quick.
This year, we significantly upped our game in terms of software as well. Starting from the base of our robot, we take full advantage of our powerful drivetrain by implementing industry-standard techniques for trajectory following that has inch-level precision at that 18 feet per second that I mentioned earlier, with trajectories that are automatically scaled to each playing field that we perform on. We do this by using advanced computer vision algorithms to localize our robot, and we use state-of-the-art sensor fusion techniques, like those used on planes, to ensure high accuracy and redundancy for our localization. Essentially, our robot is an autonomous car. We have full self-driving mode and autonomous driver assist, or ADAS, where the robot can line up to score faster than a human driver ever could, overall increasing our competitive advantage on the playing field. In order to make such advanced software, we have followed the lead of those in the auto industry and developed a full robot simulation, allowing us to develop all of our code weeks in advance prior to the manufacturing being complete, which has allowed us to be so advanced this season.
We operate like a small business with different departments having specific tasks to help us run smoothly. There are two big departments, engineering and business. On the engineering side, we have groups like drivetrain, electrical, and game-specific design, among other groups. The business groups then allow the engineering groups to achieve their goals by raising funds, managing budgets and inventory, and marketing the team and reaching out to the community.
Our success on the field is in part due to Novi School District's strong pre-K to 12 robotics program. In the past season, there were over 50 teams in every level of first. Last season, 9 of the 11 middle school teams made it to the state championship, and 2 teams from the middle school made it to the world championship. To support all these teams, we've hosted events to help form and register teams, implemented training for new team coaches, and hosted summer STEM camps for middle school girls. Not only have we worked to increase the teams from Novi, but we also have student mentors, programming classes, and hosting competitions for other teams as well. Since last season, we have implemented our new Robot in 1 Week program, streamlining our training efforts.
We've also started 75 elementary and middle school robotics teams in inner city Detroit by partnering with Detroit Public Schools over the last several years. We host workshops, virtual help desks, kickoff events, and competitions, and formed the Motor City Alliance to continue the work that we had been doing by training a group of Detroit teams to work with us, by expanding mentorship and providing resources to a growing number of teams in the city. One of our FTC teams, Techno Phoenix, advanced to the World Championship last season. There's still more work to be done, but the Motor City Alliance is set to become a fully self-sustaining robotics community and pipeline, just like what we have built here in Novi over the last years. Building off of Novi High School's success as a unified champion school, we partnered with Unified Robotics of Michigan to add robotics to the unified program for high schools across the state. Unified Robotics partners 3 students with disabilities, the athletes, and 3 high school robotics students, the peers, to compete in a Lego sumo robot style competition. The Unified Robotics League is entering its 4th season with 8 high schools participating, including Northville. To build off of our successes, we've begun providing resources to schools in California to expand the program outside of just the state of Michigan.
By partnering with 11 different community organizations, we've completed over 400 hours of community service. We've also been a long force in the international community, working in Australia, China, Turkey, and Mexico. And a new focus for us internationally has been hosting Lego robotics workshops in rural India.
Due to our hard work on and off the field, we have been recognized several times in local media, as you can see on the slide. On behalf of Frog Force students, parents, and mentors, we would like to thank our sponsors, Whether it was funding or the time you put into our team or mentorship, you are part of the reason why we've been able to become so successful and do so many extraordinary outreach events in the past season. We'd also like to take the time to thank you, the school board, as well as the NCSD, for your time to give us this presentation, as well as the space to meet with our team and build our robot. Thank you so much for your time, and we would now like to bring up Mr. Gunther Brunner from Magna, one of our top sponsors, to talk a little bit about his interaction with us.
Hi, my name is Gunther Brunner. I'm Director of Engineering Services at Magna here in Novi. And I don't think there's much more you need to say. What you could say, I think we can all be proud that we're part of this community and part of this team in the community. I know as far as Magna goes, we are proud to be part of this team. And not only for the hardware they bring home every year when they go to competitions, but also what they do to the community, the value and the impact they bring to the community. And whether it's the middle schools, the Lego Leagues, and all the investment they do, amongst the other community service. I think we can all feel good that those are our future leaders. They're going to be our future leaders, our future engineers, doctors, whatever they set out to be. And hopefully some of them are going to be future Magna employees. And I would just like to thank the school board for supporting the team and just congratulate the team for the success they've had in the season again.
Thank you. I want to say thank you to our students. It's very impressive. Besides all of those things, your time management skills must be top-notch, because all the work that you do, both in the robotics field and with school and volunteering and working with kids here locally and throughout the world, is really, really amazing and impressive. So does anybody have any specific questions for them? Okay.
Just to know, I think we forgot
Yeah,
to say in our
please, anything
presentation.
else, share.
But we do have a few upcoming community events that we are hosting that we would be delighted if any of you guys could come to these events. So this Saturday we are hosting a Frog Force Frenzy event, which is an FTC qualifier that we host for teams across the state of Michigan. So several of the teams that we've supported in our community are actually coming and competing in this event. So it's really cool to see the impact that we've had on these teams. Additionally, on December 2nd, we are hosting another FTC qualifier for the Detroit teams we started, as well as teams across the state. And this is really cool to also see, as I think Sanjit stated, we have supported so many Detroit teams and helped to start them that it's really cool to see the impact that we've had in there too. We are also hosting another competition this Saturday for our unified robotics teams. So as Sanjit said, we worked to start the unified robotics program with the Special Olympics of Michigan. So now we're helping to run this competition this Saturday. So all these events are super duper cool, and it's really cool to see the impact that we've had on these communities. So we'd be delighted if any of you guys could come, and it'd be great. All right.
Thank you for the personal invitation, and I also want to thank Mrs. Bloom for always communicating with the board and telling us the events that are happening in our community. You know, if we can't make one, we certainly will try our best to make another, and so we love hearing about them and love the open communication. So again, we appreciate you, and thank you for always including and inviting the board.
Thank you so much. We appreciate the support.
Alrighty, have a great night, you guys. You can hang out and listen to our board meeting if you think that that's cool, or if you're busy and need to get back, to doing all your activities, then please don't feel bad about leaving. But we appreciate hearing your report. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much.
We are going to move on to our second report to the board, and now we will have the M-STEP data report. Mr. Micah.
We have our M-STEP report, which is the Department of Education assessment that we do in the spring. And I'll turn it over to Mr. Jeremini to introduce the report.
Thank you, Mr. Micah. As many of you know, every spring our students take a significant battery of assessments across the district, grade levels, in the areas of math, reading, science, and social studies, those at various grade levels. The tests are called the M-STEP and the Michigan Merit Exam. We want to present to you the spring data. It's an opportunity for us to just check in on some highlights, points of pride, and then also sort of narrow in and focus on some of the opportunities that we have for growth. And so I'm going to bring up our Director of Curriculum and Assessment, Mr. Andrew Cohn. He's going to take us through that data.
Hey everybody, Thanks for having me tonight. So last time I was here, it was iReady. Today we're gonna take a look at state assessment data. So everything we're looking at tonight is part of the accountability system for the state of Michigan. So the way I've kind of divided this up is to look at three different ways to look at the data. So we're gonna start with our proficiency numbers. So in general, where are our students falling in terms of proficiency in these different subjects? Then we'll take a look at subgroup performance. So we have it broken down by a variety of different subgroups, so we can see how they have been doing on the spring data. And then the last thing we'll look at is trends. So in terms of over year, how have we been doing in these various different categories, all right? So we'll start here with proficiency. So the SAT is part of the MME, and so this is part of our state accountability. So if you take a look here, we've got on the left our ELA proficiency, on the right is our mathematics proficiency levels. And you'll see this repeated quite a bit this evening. We've got Novi compared to Oakland County, and then Michigan all next to it there. So you'll see Michigan here, about 52% of students are considered proficient in 11th grade in ELA on the SAT. Oakland Schools is a little bit better, and then Novi is quite a lot better there at 81.6%. And if you look at mathematics, we see a similar kind of trend here as well. So Novi at 70% proficiency. Taking a look at M-STEP in 11th grade, our students take the SAT, which is just ELA and math, and then Michigan creates its own test, the M-STEP, which takes a look at science and social studies. So here you're seeing, again, Novi Oakland Schools in Michigan, science on the left, social studies on the right. They're showing us proficient or advanced, which is ideal, what we're looking for in the gray. But blue is considered partially proficient, so not all the way there, but not the same as not proficient. So we want to see mostly gray. Blue is much better than obviously the orange. So one thing that looks a little odd here is you'll see things like, if you look at social studies on the right, Oakland Schools has that larger blue graph. You don't really want more blue if you have more gray, if that makes sense. So Novi's blue partially proficient is lower than Oakland Schools because more of them are in the gray category, which is proficient. Not sure if it's the best visual, but there's our data there. So we're at 55% proficient in science. You compare that to the state of Michigan, and it's a pretty significant advantage there. And then with social studies, we're at 53% proficient with only 36% in the state. So then we're going to take a look at proficiency in the other grades that have accountability tests given to them. So at this level, what you're seeing here is spring ELA proficiency, grades 3 through 7, then you'll see that little hash marked orange line. That is simply there to delineate the difference between, these are two different tests. So 3 through 7 are all M-STEP created by the state, and then 8th grade takes the PSAT, which is of course the kind of precursor practice for the SAT. So in ELA, you're seeing 70, 60% proficient rates here across grades 3 through 7. We do have data on how that would compare with Oakland Schools in Michigan, but it would take us a half an hour to go through each of these grade levels. So it's something we can definitely look at in the future. And then you'll see grade 8, as they are heading toward kind of practicing for the SAT, we have 84% proficiency there. So here would be the same data, but here we're looking at our mathematics proficiency. So again, grades 3 through 7, kind of around in the 60s and 70s proficiency, with grade 8 at 78% as they head into high school where they take the PSAT 10 and on to the SAT. So then, taking a look at, again, remember science and social studies aren't tested by the PSAT or SAT, so those are done through M-STEP, state testing. They are given in 5th grade, 8th grade, and 11th grade. So you're seeing science on the left, social studies on the right, in the years that we give these assessments. So grade 5, 64%, grade 8, 71%, and then again, it's a different test there in grade 11. So it's a little bit tricky because it's not quite apples to apples when you cross that hashed orange line that you're looking at. And then social studies proficiency, you see 44%, 61%, and then you see the PSAT levels at 53% proficient. All right, we're going to take a look next at subgroup performance. So what you're going to see here is a fairly complicated looking graphic, but basically this is what they call a heat map, where the numbers correspond to colors, right? So you can kind of see the thermometer looking graph on the right is showing you that the closer you get to 100% proficiency, the darker that color is going to be. 8th grade and 11th grade is what we're looking at here, PSAT and SAT. My personal favorite, if you look at NOM, that's Novi, Oakland, Michigan. I like to just look at it because it says nom nom, so it's entertaining to me. So if you take a look there, you're seeing, as you go in the horizontal lines, these are various different subgroups. And the way it identifies it is it'll identify it as part of the subgroup or not part of the subgroup. So you see, if you look at all students, you're seeing that in 8th grade, PSAT for ELA is 84% proficient in Novi, right? But then you'll see below, you've got students that are designated as economically disadvantaged, and then below that are students who are not economically disadvantaged. Then you'll see English learners, then not English learners. So it's kind of a binary, whether you're in or out of that category. So what I did was, with the little green circles, I kind of highlighted some areas. It's very unscientific, but areas where we seem to be, 10 or more percentage points above either the Oakland County or Michigan number. So what's interesting to look at there is, we have economically disadvantaged students, so does Oakland County, so does Michigan. Michigan has about a 45% proficiency overall with economically disadvantaged students. Oakland County has about 48%. So we have kids with the same economic disadvantages, but we outperform Oakland and Michigan by really significant margins, right? And you see that with a lot of other categories. Our English language learner performance is significantly higher. Our students with disabilities in ELA, we do significantly better than Michigan and Oakland with students with disabilities. Looking further down on the list where it starts to break into different ethnicities, if you look at our numbers for our African American students, the state of Michigan is at about 34% proficiency. Oakland County is a little bit better, and we're significantly better there. We see that with Hispanic students as well and with white students as well. So you're going to see this kind of same pattern as we go. I won't go over each one, but wanted to kind of lay it out for you here in this example. So this is again PSAT, SAT, ELA, subgroup proficiency. So this one's even busier, but now you're looking at grades 3 through 7. This is M-STEP now. So this is what we give for ELA in grades 3 through 7, every single grade. I really want to say the nom-noms again, but that's too many, so I'm just going to keep on. So here we're seeing similar kind of highlights for areas that we do significantly better. I also put, in this case, some purple circles that are identifying areas where we are not doing better, and we're actually doing a little bit worse than either Oakland or Michigan. Keep in mind, this is, you always have to kind of keep that caveat, whether it's good news or bad news, it is one test given one time in the spring, and we don't want to overreact to any of these numbers, but at the same time, we want to make sure we're looking at those flags. So here we see that students with disabilities are significantly outperforming the state, the county in 3rd grade, but we are right at that average or even under Oakland County in 4th, and in 5th we're a little bit under Oakland County. So those are interesting areas to look at. Keep in mind, these are also small sample sizes. We may only have 20 or 30 students that fit that. In fact, if you look, you'll see some areas on these graphs where there are little asterisks. That simply means there were either too few students for us to have data, or few enough students that we can't report it because FERPA, it would be too easy to identify who those kids are, right? So again, if you look down at our Asian student population here, we are actually a little bit below the Oakland County number for 4th grade and 7th grade. For African American students, we're above until you get to 7th grade, where we're a little bit below Oakland County average. Hispanic, similar pattern, and then if you look at our Caucasian kids, we also are a little bit below Oakland County there in 4th grade. Now, whether these numbers are super statistically significant, we don't really know based on the sample size. Still, it's worth taking a look at this stuff, and then keeping an eye on it to see if it's a trend that develops. All right, taking a quick look at math subgroups. So same situation, PSAT and SAT. Can take a look there for yourself at our 8th and 11th grade numbers, and pretty significant good performances in this scenario. But there are things we look at that are interesting. For example, if you look at our African American student population, we're almost quadrupling the performance of the state of Michigan in 8th grade, but then we drop to just sort of 150% comparatively in 11th grade. So curious about why that is and what we would need to do. Grades 3 through 7, same thing. Now we're looking at M-STEP math, and you can see the same patterns we've looked at in other areas. We significantly outperform in most cases. In this case, we see math, we do a little bit better than with ELA. Students with disabilities, the only negative area there is in 4th grade. Science, so now we're looking, again, science and social studies are only given in 5th, 8th, and 11th grade, so you're just seeing those three. And so here again, you're seeing this fairly consistent pattern where our students, even in our different subgroups, tend to outperform the state and the county. So this is something I really think is significant, is that, you know, lots of communities have these same subgroups and aren't doing as well in these areas as we are. Social studies, similar pattern here as well, 5th, 8th, and 11th grade. All right, we're going to take a look at trends here. So we looked at proficiency, we looked at subgroups, so now this is the data we're going to look at that's going to show us performance over time, different years, right? So we'll start here with our ELA performance, proficiency here in 8th and 11th grade. So this is looking at the PSAT in 8th grade, the SAT in 11th grade. So you'll see on a lot of these, there's a gap there in between 19 and 21, which is, you know, doesn't take a lot of thinking to figure out where that came from. So we did not give those tests during COVID. So you'll see that there's a fairly consistent trend, Novi, Oakland, and Michigan, where there was a little bit of a drop. But you'll see that for Novi, we're making kind of a good uptick. So is Oakland and Michigan, but we're right there with them in our ELA performance, and all significantly higher than Oakland and Michigan's proficiency levels. So here would be 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th grade, looking at the ELA M-STEP. And so in this scenario, our numbers are generally higher than Oakland schools and Michigan, but a little bit of inconsistency. So you see, you know, increases in grade 3 and grade 5, but decreases 4 and 7. It's important to note that this is not cohort data. So what we mean by that is we are looking at, you know, for example, 7th graders who took the test in 21-22, and a new group of 7th graders that take that test in 22-23. Right? So that sample size of 450 kids also can be part of that variance, right? Here is math proficiency trends. So here again, the whole state seemed to kind of slide a little bit there over COVID and correct a little, and Novi seems to have corrected a lot better so far than Oakland and Michigan. So this is 8th grade and 11th grade, the College Board PSAT and SAT tests. And here would be 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th grade. Again, these are M-STEP Michigan tests. Our numbers are a little bit higher than Oakland schools and Michigan overall. But we do see, again, this sort of inconsistency, probably due to small sample sizes, but still worth taking a look at. You know, if we noticed over time that grade 3 always improved and grade 4 always declined, that's something we need to look more at. Then we have science. So during the COVID years, we also had some new science standards, which is why they didn't give these tests pre-COVID, and then we had COVID. So we don't have a lot of historical data here, which is why you're only seeing these two scores. But they're going in the right direction, so that's good. And that's 5th, 8th, and 11th grade that take the science M-STEP. And then finally we have the social studies M-STEP trends. These are also 5th, 8th, and 11th grade. And again, numbers are pretty good, and we've had some pretty good increases, from one cohort to the next, in this case. And I think that is the end of that, but if you have any questions, I'm happy to field them.
Just one thought, I've noticed some really good reporting things we did with iReady. I like the cohort data. I like the heat map that we're doing here. It'd be really great if we started to kind of coalesce around a certain way that we present the data every time for both types, so that we can kind of get some consistency with identifying trends over time, figuring out where the district needs to focus their priorities to make sure that all of our students are achieving to their maximum potential. So there's definitely some new innovations here that I like as well. Now it'd be great if the next time we present iReady and M-Step, if we have like a consistency in data presentation.
Okay,
So
the
that'd
format.
Yeah, so that'd be something I'd like to kind of talk about in between now and next time we present the data.
Thank you, Jason. Any other questions or comments? Certainly if something comes up, as you're laying in bed tonight thinking about all this data that Mr. Combe gave to us, that we can send that over through Mr. Jeremini and Mr. Michael.
I have many nerdy charts, so you're welcome to reach out with questions.
Thank you. Thank you for the information.
All right, thank you.
Alrighty, we will move on to celebrations. Do any board members have anything that they would like to celebrate? Ms. Bodwine?
I just, driving by Village Oaks today and on Thursday, noticed the parking lot full of cars, because it is conference time there, as well as many of our other schools. So I just wanted to thank everybody who has been working late. I know the staff at VO was there till like 8 p.m., and I imagine that's the case in many of our other buildings. So just looks like a very long day, and thank you to everybody for doing that and making sure parents are informed. And also thank you to the families for showing up and partnering with your teachers.
Thank you. Any other celebrations? Mr. Micah?
So much to celebrate around the district, but one of the things that I'm very excited about is we have some new people that are joining our team in the technology area. And so we contract with Oakland Schools for our technology support, as many of you know. And so there were some additional support that they were able to provide to us in the area of technology. We did announce it to the staff, but I thought it would be good for you to meet our people kind of in person. And so first, I guess we'll ask Jason Smith, not the same Jason Smith that was confused in the district, but Jason Smith is our very talented director of technology here in the district, and he's been great to work with already, hitting the ground running. And Lisa Whiteside are both here, and Lisa is our senior technology coordinator. Both of these two individuals are a very powerful team, and they've done a great job kind of working into the culture of our district already, and clearing tickets and helping support our technology efforts. So I wanted to give you as a board a chance to meet them and celebrate really their arrival. And so if you two would mind kind of coming up and then sharing a little intro.
Thank you.
Hello, Jason Smith. How's everybody doing? I am your Director of Technology. A little bit about me. I've been in education for 23 years now, 13 years focused in technology. The past 5 years, I was the Senior Tech Coordinator in Royal Oak Schools. Some of my responsibilities and projects there were, when I went in, they started a bond project. We were able to finish that, successfully wrap that up. Other projects were security refreshes, member of the security team, help implement new safety features, technologies for the school district. Some of the other projects might have been classroom refreshes, new interactive boards in every classroom, working closely with the curriculum department. I feel that is a good point for the technology department to be, is with the curriculum department. They should work hand in hand. That actually goes for every department now, as we're starting to see technology dabbled in everybody's department. So just like to say thank you for the opportunity. Can't wait to start wrapping this up and really get going.
Welcome, Jason.
Thank you. Any questions or anything? Or?
Nope. Thanks.
Lisa Whiteside. So I am actually returning back to Novi. I was a tech integration specialist from Open Schools assigned here from 2019 to 2022, and I've just been working up at the main campus at Open Schools the past year, working on some leadership and project roles with that. So I'm really grateful to be welcomed back. A lot of familiar faces, a lot of new faces. It's been a very warm welcome. Prior to that, I was a classroom teacher, so I'm really excited having the background in technology in the classroom as well, to help advocate for what the teachers are looking for technology-wise and get them up and running, as well as working with the team that we have in place here to make sure everyone is getting the support that they need in the buildings, bond projects, stuff like that. So great mentor with Jason. So I'm super excited to be working with him and learning ropes and everything along the way with him and seeing all the great things to come. So
thank you. Welcome back. Alrighty, we will move on to comments from the audience. The board respectfully requests that any individual wishing to speak to the board provide their name, address, any organization they represent, keeping their comments to the allotted time of 3 minutes, and refrain from directing comments to individual members of the board, district employees, or members of the audience. If you would like to speak to the board, you can turn in your green card and we'll get it up here. I know we have one. I saw it when I sat down, so I will turn it over to Mr. Smith to call up our community member, or?
Sure, thank you. I'd like to invite returning guest Sue Collins Schroeder.
Good evening. My name is Sue Collins Schroeder. I am up here in the district. My son is a sophomore at the high school, but I am actually here this evening representing the Novi Educational Foundation. I'm the executive director there, and I just wanted to take 3 minutes to thank the district and the Board of Education for the support that we receive and the partnership that we have with you guys. And I also want to give you an update on what we're doing. So this has been a busy year. We have a board consisting of 12 members. Some of those trustees are here this evening, so thank you for coming. We hit the ground running in July. We have started 2 more of the outdoor learning areas, finished Village Oaks, and we're working on the middle school now. And hopefully Orchard Hills and Deerfield will be finished in January. So we're looking forward to that. We also did new teacher grants this year. Every teacher receives money to start their classroom. Even if they're new to Novi, whether they're new, like brand new and never taught before, or new to our district, they do get money. But we also gave them gift cards from Meijer and Staples this year as an add-on to help them do a little bit more in their classroom and get started here. After that, we are working on the fellowship grants, and I apologize, we couldn't be here at the meeting in October when you accepted our gift for the teachers. But that's a new program for us this year. We had $5,000 that we gave to various teachers to do their continuing education, and it was really interesting to see the applicants that we had because it was all across the board. It was music teachers, art teachers, school psychologists, ELA teachers. So it was really nice to be able to provide that to them, and I'm really looking forward to the information that they're going to bring back to the district and share with our kids. That's really exciting. And then the last thing, this is a little awkward, but I'd like to thank you for accepting our gift of the teacher grants before you've officially accepted them, which is later in the agenda. But we are really excited about 31 new grants this year, totaling over $27,000. I'm not going to go into specifics about what they are because we do surprise the teachers. That will be happening the end of November, beginning of December. So thank you so much for partnership. I truly believe that we're making a difference for these kids, and I hope to continue doing that going into 2024.
Thank you so much. Alrighty, we will move on to the consent agenda. This evening, we have several items on our consent agenda. We have approval of the minutes, which is the regular meeting minutes of October 19th, 2023. The board work session minutes of November 9th, 2023. We have approval of bills, both the board report, the September 2023 purchase card report, the September check register from 2023. We have some field trips that are on our consent agenda. We have the MHSAA overnight field trip form. We have the B of E MHSAA overnight field trip cover sheet. That's not really a field trip. It's all the MHSAA field trip. The HOSA state competition, the SY24 HOSA state conference. We have the BPA national tournament in Chicago. We have the NHS varsity field trip, January 20 of 24. We have the State Thespian Festival 2023. We have the France and Italy trip. We have the England and Scotland trip. And I think that is all. So if I can get a motion for approval, Mr. Mishner?
I move that the board approve the consent agenda items as presented.
Support.
Recommended by Mr. Mishner and supported by Mr. Mena. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. We'll now move on to our donations. We have 2 donations for this evening. First, we will start with the NEF grants.
The Novi Educational Foundation is presenting their list of teacher grants to the Board of Education for the total amount of $11,325.31 as attached. As a reminder, those items that will be included in the minutes after the announcements are made are confidential so that we have the opportunity to allow NEF to surprise the teachers with their new grants. And so the recommendation is that you'll accept the donation with appreciation and thanks, and we certainly do appreciate all of the efforts of the NEF to support our teachers and everything that they're doing.
Thank you. Mr. Cook?
Yeah, I move that the Novi Community Schools Board of Education accepts the generous donation as presented with appreciation and thanks.
Second. We have recommendation by Mr. Cook and supported by Mrs. Beaudoin. Do we have any comments? I would like to say it was weird that I couldn't say like thank you or anything earlier when you were standing up there because you were officially standing up there as like comments from the audience, so I was just trying to follow the rules. But thank you so much for all your collaborative work that you do. I know it's hours and hours you and your team spend looking through applications and coming up with innovative programming to support our students and our staff. So we do really appreciate the partnership and all the work that you and the team continue to do to support everyone here at Novi Community School District. Do we have any other comments? Okay, seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. We will move on to our second donation, which is Village Oaks PTO t-shirts. Mr. Meinke?
The district is in receipt of a generous donation from the Village Oaks Voice PTO. This generous donation in the amount of $3,682 for the purchase of 700 t-shirts for every student in the building. The recommendation is that the Board of Education accept the donation as presented with appreciation and thanks.
Thank you. If I can get a motion?
I move that the Novi Community School District Board of Education accept this generous donation with great appreciation and thanks.
We have support. Recommended by Mrs. Beaudoin and supported by Mrs. Roney. Do we have any comments or questions? Yes, please.
How do we order one?
I can connect you with the people that you would need to order that from. They're not here.
Oh, okay.
You're asking people who are.
Oh, I just thought maybe
Nope.
someone would.
No, actually, I believe the PTO president mentioned that her husband was hunting, so she was not able to join us this evening. But I do have the information and would be more than happy to hook you up with that. It said in our notes here that the teachers had an opportunity to purchase one, so I'm sure they'd let you in as well. Yes, nicely.
Sounds great. Any other questions or comments? Okay. Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. We will move on to our first action item, which is Personnel Report A. Mr. Meinke?
Thank you very much. I'd like to turn it over to Dr. Carino to introduce Personnel Report A this evening.
Thank you. Tonight, we are excited to bring forward 4 recommendations to hire. The first is Lisa Rodenheeper, who is being recommended for the Special Education Resource Room Teacher position at Deerfield. Lisa comes to us with previous experience as a resource room and English co-teacher in Wayne Westland and as a teacher consultant in South Lyon. Maral Edwards is being recommended for the elementary secretary position at Orchard Hills. Maral has previously worked as a receptionist and also as a noon aide in Novi. We also recommend Pamela Hendricks for a special education paraprofessional position at the NATC. She's previously served as a special education parapro for the past few years in both Okemos and Northville. And finally, we recommend Fallon Pauley for the transportation secretary dispatcher position. She has served as a media technician and assistant teacher at a local daycare before coming to Novi. We also have 3 resignations: Kathleen Phillips, a teacher from the Adult Ed ESL program, Bob Stee, the career prep night lead, and Diane Stee, an adult education teacher.
Thank you, Dr. Carino. If I can get a motion for a recommendation. Mrs. Roney?
That the Novi Community School District Board of Ed adopts the personnel report recommendations as presented.
Support.
Recommended by Mrs. Roney and supported by Mr. Mena. Does anybody have any comments or questions for this evening? Mr. Smith?
It's not the first time, unfortunately, we've seen Bob Stee's name on the retirement resignation report, but I just want to take a quick second and publicly thank Bob for all the work that he's done for years and years and years in his different roles. I remember when Bob first resigned, we actually took his position and had to split it off into 2 positions. And he continued to come back and help and serve the district with the work that he did at the Rohr Center. And he's just been a tremendous friend to our community and to our kids, a lot of those kids with special needs that wouldn't have had a champion if it wasn't for Bob and some of the work that he did. So I just wanted to acknowledge Bob and the great work that he's done for Novi.
Thank you, Mr. Smith, for those kind words. Do we have any other questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. I will turn it over to Dr. Carino to introduce one of our new staff.
Thank you. We have Lisa Rodenheeper here today with us, so welcome, come to the podium.
And a very
Hi,
patient
welcome.
fellow.
Yes.
Well, thank you. I'm Lisa Rotenheber. I'm really excited to be here. I have been an educator since 2001. I come from a variety of experience in special education. I've also had my own company that helped me stay at home and be home with my 3 children, but also the company was in education, so it was a really great experience. I was able to meet Deerfield today, and I was welcomed by the staff and Mr. Francis, and I know this sounds a little cliche, but I felt like I was coming home. So
great.
Awesome. Do you have any questions for me?
What was the nature of your business?
Education.
Okay.
Tutoring.
Oh, okay, good, great.
Yeah.
Awesome. And who did you bring with you tonight?
My son Brody.
Hi, Brody.
He's my middle son.
Thanks
My
for
son,
staying
my
through
other son is 16 and he is working. My youngest one is 9 and he hopped in the shower. I was like, oh, okay. And my husband is an educator too, but he was having the chills. So I said, stay home.
Oh, well, thank you for keeping him at home.
Yeah.
Right?
He was bummed, but.
Well, welcome to Novi, and we look forward to seeing you around.
Yeah, I'm very happy. So
Awesome.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Alrighty, we'll move on to our second action item, which is a Raptor Emergency Management Suite purchase.
We brought this to the board at our last meeting for information and discussion. Essentially, tonight, you're being asked to consider an approval of our emergency management suite, which will help us with reunification efforts and expand our current Raptor software. The recommendation amount is for $56,877.
Thank you, Mr. Micah. If I can get a motion, Mr. Mishner?
I move that the Novi Community School District Board of Education approve the purchase of the Raptor Emergency Management Suite plus CSP in the amount of $56,877.
Do we have support?
I'll support.
Recommended by Mr. Mishner and supported by Mr. Smith. Do we have any further questions? I know we discussed this at our last meeting. Okay,
Just for anyone who did not tune into our last meeting, I know they're very exciting. Most of our community, I'm sure, chooses to watch them all very attentively. But in case you missed it, this is the system that'll help if there is an emergency in our district. It'll be on the teachers' phones, and they'll have easy access to notify the police and the school district where they are and what students are with them. So it's kind of a nice safety feature, just in the event of an emergency or any kind of evacuation. Is that accurate?
yeah, that is
Okay.
accurate. It's for
Brilliant.
reunification if in times of crisis, so that's perfect. Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Okay, seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. We will move on to our third action item, which is the board meeting times adjustment. Mr. Micah.
So at the October 2nd board work session, the topic of changing our board meeting start times came up. We brought that for discussion, and we actually, in order to do that, the board would need to formally vote to change the calendar. We did talk about that at our last meeting. And so if you look on the agenda, the board meeting dates with the quarterly workshop on December 14th, there's really 4 additional meetings. It's the December 14th, the December 21st, the January 11th, and January 18th, being reflected with a 6:00 p.m. start time instead of a 7:00 p.m. start time. And that is there for the board's consideration this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Micah. If I can get a motion? Mr. Smith?
I'll move that the Novi Community School District Board of Education adjust the starting of the regular board meetings from 7 p.m. to 6 p.m.
Do we have support?
I'll support.
Recommended by Mr. Smith and supported by Mrs. Roney. Any questions or comments? I think my only comment is no one should have a senior moment. I mean, a few of you at this board table have been doing 7 o'clock for years, so if you're late, we'll just start without you and you'll come strolling in when you remember. Any other comments? Okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
Thanks, guys.
You're quite welcome.
How many years has it been done?
We will move on to our final action item, which is the baseball trip to MLB Dodger Spring Training. Mr. Micah.
Thank you. The Nova Athletic Department is requesting approval for the baseball team to travel to Vero Beach, Florida during the spring break session. Did receive a couple questions from the board during information and discussion. The students are doing fundraising. They are trying to bring down the total cost for everybody. It's a very competitive, apparently slot, because our kids are going to be able to participate in 4 scrimmages and practices along with other team building events. They are going to open it up to as many kids as possible, although we may not be able to accommodate all 3 levels. Certainly everybody on the varsity program, and then if there's slots, they'll allow for some of the younger kids to go. So that is there for your approval this evening.
Thank you very much. If I can get a motion, Mr. Mena?
Yeah, I move that the board approve the Novi baseball trip to the MLB Dodger Spring Training Complex in Florida from March 22nd through March 30th, 2024.
Support.
Recommended by Mr. Mena and supported by Mr. Cook. Do we have any questions or comments? Mr. Cook?
Yeah, this is a great opportunity for the baseball team. I'd just like to see some of these opportunities offered to, like the softball team and, other teams like that too, so, if they exist.
Yeah, it would be great if some of the other coaches, if indeed there is interest within their teams, look into these opportunities, because this is really a unique opportunity, and it would be great to see some of our other kids take advantage of these things. Any other comments or questions? Okay, seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. We'll move on to our list of information and discussion items. We are going to start with the Troon policy updates. Mr. Micah.
So the Governance and Policy Committee met on October 30th to review and discuss the July policy updates. So you might be wondering, why are you seeing the July policy updates in November? It's because we were in the middle of completely renovating and revamping our policies. So the cadence, as I've said before, is going to be that we really bring most of the changes that are going to come out in the July packet. And that doesn't mean that we're not going to have ongoing maintenance. I think there's been requests from several trustees to look at other policies down the road. And so This really is an opportunity for you to see, each board member should have every single policy that would be recommended to be revised. 2501, 3118, 3405, 4104, 4216, 5411, 5419, 5510, and 5707. Those are all there. We also had a conversation at the policy meeting at the request of trustee Mishner related to the Robert's Rules of Order. And so in our previous policy, we did have a statement. And so the recommendation from the policy committee is reflected in the file for policy 2501, that they're bringing for info and discussion, not approval tonight, but the line is essentially being added to H in 2501 that says, if there's a disagreement that is supported by 2 or more trustees concerning the rules of order for a meeting, it will be resolved according to the latest edition of Robert's Rules of Order. And again, that kind of reflects an opportunity to, honor what the trustee Mishner was requesting, as well as an opportunity for us to look at the, similar process that we had in our previous policies. So those policies are there obviously for your review. There are very minor changes to language. Some of these are in response to statutes, in particular the 3rd grade reading law, which will take immediate effect related to retention. And so a lot of those policies had to change. There are some additional legislative imperatives that came down relative to school lunch programs and how we handle school debt, so those are in there as well. I will say from a cursory perspective, there's nothing substantial there, but I think it's worth your review, and then certainly if you have questions tonight, we can address some of those, but also from now until the next board meeting, please let me know if you have any questions or concerns about those. And I know some of you have already put some things on my radar relative to those, so.
Thank you, Mr. Micah. I'll open up the floor, Ms. Boutwine.
So on 4216, it's personal communication devices. I emailed Mr. Micah about this today, but I apologize, I didn't get very much time to review this before today. So sorry, it's kind of late, but it says that employees may not use personal communication devices to record communications or images during work or school day, or at school-sponsored events other than a public performance or sporting event, unless the employee has received permission from the superintendent or designee. And I was concerned because we have like Seesaw through my kids' elementary school, and I get photos all the time from school, and so I'm not sure how that would be our policy, because it seems like a lot of the teachers are using their personal devices to upload photos for families and take videos of things they're doing, and it's like honestly a great communication tool. And then it says that if in letter G, unauthorized recording of communications could result in discipline, including discharge. And so that seems like not a policy that we probably need worded quite that way. So I want that one to be reviewed if we could.
Yeah, we can take a look at that. I'll have a response for you, and then we could talk about it for sure before the next meeting.
And in the meantime, would it be safe to assume that employees may continue to utilize their devices to upload photos for families?
Yeah, and I'm gonna just take a stab that what is there is not the intent of what you're saying.
That's what I'm asking, because that's like how it read to me, and I
Right.
was like, that can't be what we're saying.
Correct.
That you
So I
can't take a
think-
picture of your students for the families or something. Wouldn't
Right,
make
so
sense.
I will definitely get clarity so that we can have that conversation to make it more palatable for sure.
Okay, fantastic, thank you so much.
Thank you. Mr. Mishner?
And then, not maybe counterpoint, but approaching it from the other direction, I'd be interested to hear how this policy fits within Michigan's single recorder law, just to make sure that we're not impeding on any freedoms that state statute, gives citizens, including our staff, just to see how that fits, if we have to make exceptions for that, or if we have total jurisdiction within our district, how that works.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments about any of these? Okay, so Mr. Micah will get that information, he'll share it out with the whole board, just for some clarity, so that before this comes back to the board for action next week, that we'll have some information as brought forward to make an informed decision.
You said next week?
Not next week, I'm sorry.
Okay, I was
On
like, I think
Thanksgiving,
that
we're gonna
that's
vote at the
Thanksgiving, isn't it?
Yeah. Next meeting. I
Fantastic,
misspoke.
thank you, excuse me. I was a little
Um,
panicked for a moment.
I
So
know.
was I.
I'm just thinking about Thanksgiving break, sorry, excuse me.
Great.
We will move on to the 2024 Ford electric van purchase. Mr. Micah.
So this is definitely more of an informational item. I wish that I had more quotes and availability to give you some things, but I wanna kind of generate a little bit of awareness around what we're looking at or trying to accomplish here. So, first and foremost, we need to purchase a van for our food service department. We have the fund balance in that fund, for those of you that are with the finance committee to understand that we do need to have that vehicle for a lot of the work that's being done there and transporting food. We also are looking at how to drive down some of our costs of some of our trips. And in doing so, we believe that we could really serve 3 vans, 10-passenger vans, to allow us to do a lot of the trips that are less than, sometimes we're taking 3 or 4 students to a thespian festival, and we're taking a whole school bus to do that, and then we're, looking for people that are very specifically trained versus somebody that can drive a 10-passenger van is really a lesser requirement. It requires a chauffeur's license, and that's a little easier to staff. One of the 3 vans, we would actually look at outfitting with a wheelchair lift so that we can provide some of our students that have disabilities transportation within the district in a much easier way. And so this idea it was originally brought forward, and the pricing information is available for the gas vans. But we know that we've been talking about looking at our electric infrastructure, and so the request really came to look for the e-transits, which are electric vans that would allow us to really start to get into the EV space with some of our systems without having to do a complete infrastructure of what a Class 8 bus would be and all of the charging stations that go along with it. So unfortunately, before this meeting, which we were hoping was able to happen, the dealer was not able to isolate quotes for the electric versions of these. So I am gonna be communicating more with you in advance. The lead time on these vehicles, unfortunately, is pretty long, but we realize that we have to start moving forward. So the idea would be to draw down our transportation costs holistically overall and provide a much more efficient way that opens up to a variety of circumstances. You might have a coach that could have their chauffeur's license that could also drive a van of 7 golfers to a state tournament versus having a bus take them out there, right? So there's a myriad of different ways that we could see utility for this. So Mr. Kling and I have had some conversations with Mrs. Valentine and Mr. Dragoo, and we're looking at how we could possibly pull this off. So unfortunately, we do have quotes for the My Deal competitive bids for the gas versions. We're hoping to get electric versions quotes, and then we can share those with the board. But the concept is really here for any questions and discussion tonight. We think this will eventually actually lower our transportation costs, and I think it's a good way for us to kind of learn about this type of vehicle and get our mechanics and everybody up to speed on some of those things. So that's there for your discussion and information tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Micah. Are there any immediate burning questions? It sounds like there's more information to come before our next meeting with some numbers and figures, but any just comments or inquiry about this specific project?
I'd defer to the 2 Ford guys. These vehicles any good?
I think it's highly appropriate, especially if we have a fleet of internal combustion engine vehicles that can take our students long distances and be refueled along the way. I think we have a lot of travel that's much shorter distances. Electric vehicles are a perfect fit for that. Even inter-district transportation that Mr. Micah mentioned for some of our disabled students, that would be a perfect fit for one of these vehicles where they're traveling very little and they have plenty of time to charge in between trips. And we spend very little to fuel them. And on top of that, the maintenance costs will be significantly less because there's less moving components in an electric vehicle. For example, a similar electric vehicle that I may happen to own It has a service interval of 30,000 miles, and the only thing on the maintenance list is the cabin air filter. And that's it. So it gives you an idea, starts to give you an idea of how much we can be more efficient. And plus the EV tax credits are quite beneficial right now, so they may not be around forever, so this is a good way to kind of dip our toes in the water, so to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Mishner. Any other comments? Mr. Cook, do you have anything to share?
I want to say that, yeah, we may be Ford employees, but we had no input in this at all.
That's a good disclaimer.
We better throw that out there right now, because there are other electric vans out there and stuff like that, so. But for the uses that we're looking at them for, there's advantages to EVs over internal combustion or ICE. And, I think that, Jason highlighted a lot of those. And to move this way in a, you want to call it a pilot or in a small way at first is a good move, because, if it does become an issue with cold weather, with, being able to utilize them the way we want to, then it's not that drastic of a change to go back.
Thank you. Thank you for your input. And we look forward to hearing more information and more details before we bring this for action. Oh, I'm sorry, Mrs. Roney, I didn't see you over
Do we
there.
have the charging, the infrastructure for these that we can?
Good question.
Yeah, actually, Mr. Kling and I were talking about that, and one of the nice advantages is that our fleet is housed within a fenced-in area. Some of the challenges with public charging stations are, tampering and, how do you secure them and a lot of those. Although that is a further conversation we're gonna have to have is how do we handle some of those public charging stations on our campus as we add parking lots, and I think that's a conversation that it does need to happen, but, Devin, I don't know if you wanna talk a little bit about, just the thought of what that infrastructure is significantly less to install than the infrastructure, say, for a school bus, right? And so this would allow us to really, as we've kind of said, get into this space without quite the same level of investment as, getting a Class A charging station and all of that. So I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
No, that's exactly right. So the infrastructure required for these type of vehicles are completely different than a large bus. So we are still working on that, exactly where we're gonna put them by the transportation fenced-in area. But again, it's significantly less cumbersome than an actual school bus. And because they are they're road vehicles, they're vans, we have an opportunity where we can purchase them potentially out of bond funds and not general fund, but yet then utilize them for general fund cost savings.
And then do we pay to get that installed, like the charging stations, or?
Yeah, there's actually incentives through the dealership and also through the state to help offset the cost of installing those charging stations. So Jason was describing there are some programs out there right now that probably won't be out there forever. So there's not only tax credits and credits for us going in this direction, there are grants to potentially help us install these at a significantly reduced cost as well.
Great, thank you.
I would just add that these vehicles specifically, I'm not aware of what Class A buses require, but these vehicles can utilize other public charging stations that any other EV that you and I can buy utilize as well. And I think the charging stations for a vehicle like this are in the, several thousands of dollars as opposed to the several tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands.
Just one other thing, if we're using these to travel, like smaller groups with, for slightly longer lengths, I mean, you could definitely plan that you're gonna stop at whatever rest station or whatever where they've got the charging stations and charge while the kids are all eating their snacks. Like there's, my boss has an electric vehicle and I've been amazed how fast it'll charge, and I'm like very sold on this idea, so I think it's brilliant. And really, most of the time when you're traveling for many hours like that, you're more than happy to walk around for 15 minutes and get a snack, and especially if you got a big group of kids, so.
It would probably take more time to get all the kids back on the bus than it would take to charge the bus.
Yeah, that's, I mean, really, because those trips, they all want to go to the food courts and whatever things, so.
Thank you. Okay, if there's any other questions or anything comes up before, or once we get the information and the numbers and the budgeting, then you can share that information with Mr. Micah and he'll get you an answer. We will move on to the maintenance gator purchase. Mr. Micah?
So this is for information and discussion. We have 2 new gators that are needed. We use our gators for all sorts of things, grounds care, pesticide spraying, snow plowing. We have 2 very old gators in service right now. We're hoping to pass those over to the Meadows campus for winter plowing and kind of using them more as singular use vehicles. These vehicles can be purchased out of the 2019 bond funds. And so there are 2 new John Deere Gator vehicles with 6'6" V plows, enclosed cabs, all-terrain tires, and a variety of other things there. The total cost for the 2 vehicles coming out of the bond fund would be $71,623.56, and again, those will come back at the December meeting for your consideration.
Thank you. Do we have any questions specific to gators?
It's just nice that it's a green color.
Okay, John Deere. Alrighty, if any questions come up, please share them with Mr. Micah. We are gonna move on to our next information and discussion, and I notice on the printed copy, it says food service van purchase, but because I'm keen on what's actually happening tonight, it's actually the lawnmower purchase. Mr. Micah?
Yes, so we do have, those 2 actually can be doubled up because the food service van and the electric van purchases are kind of 2 in the same.
Yep.
We are looking at replacing a couple older lawnmowers that we have. So again, coming before you, we're looking at the purchase of 3 new Ferris mowers. These are purchased through competitive contract. These are commercial grade industrial mowers. The 3 mowers total cost would be $31,994.01. And again, that will come back for approval at the December meeting, and that will be able to be purchased out of 2019 bond funds as well.
Thank you, Mr. Micah. Does anybody have any questions in relation to a mower purchase? I'm sure that Mr. Dragoo is watching us tonight, I'm certain of it, because he's got lots of things on this
Did you
agenda
wanna add
that he's
something?
looking forward to.
I just wanted to, the 3 lawnmowers, they're 2008 and 2011 models. We've used them well. We will auction them when we get the 3 new ones. And the Gators, one of them was actually a 2000 model. But we're gonna still try to utilize it with our grounds crew. So it's needed, and they are very used, and Mike will appreciate it.
Sounds great. Mr. Cook?
Yeah, I know Mr. Dragoo does not ask for much, and so when he does ask for something, it is needed. I guess with the mowers and the land swap and everything, is there any opportunity to maybe get a different type of mower to cover more area and sometimes, rather than 60-inch swath at one time?
Yeah, I can.
If it's beneficial.
I can have that conversation with Mike and bring it
And
back.
get back to you, for sure. It's a good question.
You're suggesting a larger lawnmower than that?
Deck mower or something like that.
I didn't know they even made them.
Flail mower or something.
Okay.
Yeah, they have like wings that fold out. It's pretty cool.
Well, I'm gonna need to see a photo of this because this is not an item I'm familiar with, but I'm
You
like
don't see them
bigger
around a
than.
lot of houses in Novi. So.
No, I've not ever, but I did not grow up on a farm, so there's
You see
that.
them along the side of the expressway all the time.
No, I don't. But that's great, thank you. Carry on.
All righty. We will move on. We are gonna move on to the band orchestra Disney trip,
So this
February
is-
2024.
This is a field trip that's gonna be requested to be taken this upcoming February. This is the first time they've taken the trip in a while, but they have gone on this trip in the past. And so this program, a lot of schools from around the country go down to Disney in the spring and in the winter, and then they have the opportunity to perform multiple times in concerts, and so it's usually a really great celebratory trip. So that is there for your consideration, and then would come for approval in the next meeting.
Thank you. Are there any specific questions surrounding this, Mr. Smith?
Maybe it's my inability to scroll down properly, but I didn't see the normal stuff that we see about cost or who's paying for what or what it's gonna run. It's just kind of a repeat that, hey, we've done this trip before. It is, I don't know what the normal ratio is, maybe someone at that table does, but looks like it's 30 kids to every chaperone, which seems like a lot of kids for one chaperone. And then there's just no numbers on prices and who's paying for what. There's not a lot of detail on the request.
Yeah, I think you're right. The second attachment is more of a duplicate of the first attachment, so we
Correct.
will get the, we do have that information, so we
Okay.
will put that out to you as well.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Mr. Cook?
I imagine with Disney being such a large operation, these trips are available at various times throughout the year. One thing I noticed is the kids will be missing at least 4 school days just for this. I hate to see kids out of the classroom. Not that I want the kids to miss out on this, but if there were a more beneficial time, say spring break or or winter break or over one of the breaks, it would be, I guess, more palpable.
I will ask that question.
Thank you. Any other questions that we need Mr. Micah to get some further information for us? Okay, if you think of something, just send it his way, because this will come for action at our next board meeting. We will move on to the BPA Chicago trip, which is in May of 2024. Mr. Micah?
So this is Mrs. Darcy Moss along with Ms. Hallie Smith, who would like to take 12 CTE finance students who qualified to attend the 2024 BPA National Conference in Chicago. This is the first year Mrs. Moss is going to be exposing the kids to the national tournament. She has previously taken them to the state tournament. Again, this would be for these students who qualified in May of next year, and it's coming for information but approval at the next meeting.
Thank you. Do we have any specific questions? Mr. Cook?
I missed it, but this was included in the consent items.
This was?
Yes.
Okay. Hold on. I was reading those like a,
Yeah, but like on this one, there's 2 chaperones for 12 students versus 30 students for 1 chaperone. So, anyway.
oh, I see it on there now. So now what do we do there, Mr. Cook?
It's approved.
Yeah, we approve.
I just, yeah, I missed it. I didn't put 2 and 2 together until just now when, because when I was looking through the one, you use the spreadsheet.
I mean, if you could do a motion to reconsider, since we all voted for it, anybody could bring it up. You just have to be somebody.
No, it's,
I guess, does anybody have any concerns
Yeah,
with it
somebody-
at the moment?
No.
Is it something that we need more information on? No?
No.
I
Okay,
apologize, we'll get that corrected.
okay,
Seems fine.
sounds good. We'll move on to the Spanish trip to Peru, March 2025.
Yes, so the Spanish trip to Peru, and for whatever reason, I don't have
It's not on
the attachment there, so I will have to send that out as well. I think we're having some technical difficulties, because this is the first time we've done our agenda in board books in this way. And so normally it's in a different format, and I mean, it's easier to kind of pull these things up. So I will tell you that this is a Spanish trip. They have not taken this one, I believe, before. So similar to the Scotland and the England trip that we take with some of our other classes, this is an opportunity for our kids to take an international trip. But I will make sure the details come out with several of these other items that I need to update you on.
I think I have found the page we normally look at. Did anyone have specific questions on it? Or are you gonna just email it out to everybody?
I can email that out.
It's like a scavenger hunt in board books to me.
Yeah,
Oh,
I'm having a hard time finding it.
Where would we find this, Mrs. Bodwine?
I had to like click, so if you click into the Spanish trip, but I don't know if I'm even in the same screen as the rest of you at this point, because my computer turned off by itself and I had to restart. But if you click into where it says Spanish trip to Peru 2025, it's dropping for me down 3 attachments, report Spanish trip to Peru.
Wow.
SB
Oh, look at
Peru.
you.
You're just special.
My whole computer turned off, guys. I don't know where I am. I'm just trying to sort it out here. But there's some info here that I can find in board books. So if anyone had any specific questions, I'd be happy to read what I can.
This sounds great. So how about you share a little bit of
Okay,
information?
so it says that, okay, now, it is out of state, right? So that's interesting. It's with Marcy Abel and Caitlin West Cardenas, and March 27th to April 6th, 2025. There will maybe be 2 school days missed. It's about $4,400 per student, funded by families, and the cost will include travel, hotel, food, and tours. And it should be 12 to 24 students attending with 2 to 4 chaperones. Is that adequately
That's great.
summarized?
Yeah, thank you. So, Mr. Cook?
Hasn't the Spanish classes taken trips to Spain or Ecuador?
Guatemala, they've
Ecuador?
gone.
So they have
Costa
done
Rica.
overnight treat
They
trips,
have.
but
I don't think they've gone to Peru.
No,
yeah.
They went to Costa Rica last year.
I actually went to Guatemala.
Yeah. So just a little different. It's a different location, but similar trips have been taken.
Okay.
Any other questions? We'll get a hard copy sent to everybody on that, so thank you. We'll move on to our last information and discussion item, which is the Novi SRO agreement.
So this is an agreement that has not been brought to the board previously, and based on just kind of my experience, I think this is something that the board should be approving. I think it's a wonderful partnership that we have. We have a great relationship with the Novi Police Department. I believe the city council is gonna be considering this agreement as well. I talked to Chief Zinzer about this. You'll notice that in the Exhibit A, we talk about the, kind of estimated cost for the services. Those costs are largely predicated on their collective bargaining agreements that they have with their police union. But I will say, this has been a great partnership. I would strongly recommend the renewal of this agreement. This agreement will go from 2023 to 2027. And it will come back in front of you for approval at the next board meeting. But I just wanted to make sure that this was something that the board saw and had the opportunity to weigh in on.
Thank you, Mr. Micah. Do we have any specific questions? I mean, I think we all would agree that we are very blessed to have very consistent SROs. We had John Zabek here for years and years who took a retirement, and we have Sarah and Julie here now, and they do an excellent job working alongside our staff and the administrative team to keep all the kids and our entire community safe. So does anybody have any specific questions, or if something comes up that you can think of, you can certainly share that with Mr. Micah and he'll get you the information. Mr.
How long is
Commissioner?
the term of this, of the agreement?
Goes through 2027. Yep.
I do have a question, I didn't read all the details, but if someone was to retire, one of the SROs, then the police office, the city just reassigns someone, is that correct?
They do. They have to go through a process with their collective bargaining unit that allows for, somebody would put in for a transfer request to say they want to go do that, right? They have their own internal process. The ultimate decision would be on the chief of police.
Okay.
However, the relationship that I have with the chief, and I was fortunate enough to be asked to sit in on, the new fire marshal interviews. When Sarah came, we were involved, we were consulted. So I think there's kind of this element of, we'll have an opportunity to meet the person and then determine, if we had any red flags, I think there would be a mechanism for us to be able to request someone different.
Okay.
My hope is that we don't have to run into that.
Yeah.
Certainly for this agreement, Detective Warren and Molnick have been great, and they're building great relationships with our students as well as our staff. And so, again, the hope is we never have to get to that, but in the event that we do, we will work collaboratively to be a part of that.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? This will come before the board at our next meeting in December for action. Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to committee reports. The Governance and Policy Administrative Committee met. I'm the chair of that. I don't think that there's much to be said besides what we've done. We took action, or didn't take action tonight, but have information and discussion on the policy updates, and that is what the committee discussed. So, if any other policies need to be reviewed or something comes forward to Mr. Meinke, it will certainly go forward to the policy committee for additional review and recommendations to the board. We'll move on to the Finance Administrative Committee, which, there was an administrative committee, it was just the committee of the whole, which happened today. I was there, I act like I don't even know what happened, and that was quite a few hours ago, but Mrs. Roney, you are the chair, so.
Thanks. Basically, we went over our audit, which I think will be presented no, it's not presented, right? Or
No,
is it?
'cause it was presented at committee of the whole.
Right, so all the
Right.
board members had an
Okay, so,
opportunity.
and we were good. And then we did discuss the budget a little, and that's about it.
Okay.
Anything else that anybody wants to add?
I don't think so. I think Mr. Kling will probably review a few things when he has an opportunity to give his administrative report.
Well, and I thank him and, okay, I'm not gonna get the guy's name, did a rock star job with this audit. I mean, you know, it's not an easy thing to go through.
Yeah. Steve Lavant. Right?
There we go. That
Yeah,
guy.
the director of finance, yep.
Yeah, so, I mean, thank you so much and to the whole department because it's not an easy thing to do. So, we have to do it every year.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we'll move on to our curriculum committee of the whole, and Mr. Cook is our chair. If you can give us this report on that.
Yeah, we got a little bit of a late start because we got pushed back to another committee, but. You know, Mr. Meinke presented to the board some of the whole child programming that we're looking at, and it's kind of been kind of stagnant for a little bit because we're looking for the right personnel to work with it, and he thinks he's found them, and we'll get moving on that. We looked at a couple of proposals for new courses and a couple of textbook proposals. We did get a quick review of the MSTEP data that Mr. Combs took us through earlier this evening. And we also talked about the upcoming elementary literacy implementation plan and running not a pilot, but a control group.
Trial implementation.
Trial implementation of it, and then getting, if that is successful, getting those resources out to the teachers and getting them trained and giving them something to work with finally. The last thing we did talk about is some of the AI efforts that are going on and what we've been doing about them and looking at and trying to keep that in the forefront, even though it is a relatively new technology and field that everybody is getting into, so things are rapidly changing. That's about it.
Thank you, Mr. Cook. Thanks for the report, and thanks for leading the group and all the members who were board members who were able to attend this evening. We will move on to our superintendent's report, and I'll turn it over to Mr. Meinke.
Thank you. I've had the opportunity over the last few weeks to start our fall listening tours. I started this last year with Heather Burnside, and it was a really eye-opening and great experience to really hear directly from teachers, paraprofessionals, secretaries, anyone that wanted to take the chance to talk to us in person. This year I've had the opportunity of working with Kim Osmondson. Kim's here tonight, and the two of us have been visiting buildings, hearing the good, the bad, and the ugly. I mean, we certainly are far from perfect, and so I think it's really helpful sometimes for people to share, elevate their voice if they have something that, in many cases, there's some low-hanging fruit. There's some things that we can do to try and help alleviate some of those pain points. But it's just a great opportunity for dialogue. Last year I didn't do this. I talked with several of you and kind of in an effort to try and help crystallize some of these things. Once I complete the tours, I'm going to provide a report to the board that will allow you to kind of see some of the things we heard and some of the notes that the two of us took, and you know, even some of the things we're able to clear up and do. And it's a interesting thing because we're not trying to overstep the role of the principals, and so we're very cautious about that. But I think it's just been a really good thing, and our principals this year have been really understanding of the purpose, and it's been a great experience. So love talking with our staff that way. Also appreciate Friends of Novi Schools' support for a really great experience this week. I had the opportunity to go over to My Career Quest, and Jennifer Kerbrat puts a lot of effort into getting our kids exposed to careers that are not just four-year degrees. And so we had 3 buses that we were able to take of students at our high school. They learned things about medical procedures and technical medical careers, advanced coding and computer IT careers. There was a section on construction trades and some of the different trades that are available to them. And it was at the Suburban Showplace here, and it was very, very well attended, and it was great to see. I talked to a lot of our students that really, really love the experience, so I think it's an opportunity for us to expand next year. I know Mr. Jeremini's looking at that as well, you know, for our opportunity to, you know, bolster our efforts in that area. I just thought I'd say I'm proud of Jennifer Rajesh. I know she's not here right now, but, you know, I think we have a vision for having student voice, and when we have a student that puts the kind of effort in, I mean, she's working around coming to my student advisory team committee. She's creating her own committees. I mean, it's pretty impressive to hear from her, and she's a very talented young lady, and I'm excited to hear more about what she's going to be able to do, informing us, all of us, about some of the voice of the students. One of the things I wanted to just make you all aware of, we are likely, as we've talked about, looking at protecting our debt millage, which is going to be something in 2025 that we're looking at potentially going back to our voters in that year in November. You know, we're not talking about increases, but we are talking about just kind of a maintaining of our current levy. That's a big process, and that's going to take over a year of planning and kind of stakeholder input and getting the community involved and all of those things. In the 2014 bond, that many of you were here for and aware of, we had partners that we essentially continued for the 2019 bond. With our entire cabinet being new, and just because of the time that's elapsed between then and now, I've talked with the CPC committee, and you know, the recommendation, which I think is just a best practice, is that we look at doing an RFP, a formal bid for all of our partners. It provides us an opportunity to make sure that we're getting the best pricing from our vendors and from our people that we work with in that space. And so the first group that we would really work with is our owner's rep. And so Mr. Kling and I are going to be working over the next month or so to really put a bid out, which will allow for the board to be able to see who is potentially putting in for that service, and then we would be in a position where it would start with our owner's representative, and then whoever is selected for that role will be able to then help us bid out the other contractors, our legal counsel, our bond counsel, our financial advisors, our architects, our construction managers, all of the folks that would be involved in helping with that project. So I know it seems like November of 25, you know, 2 years from now is a long way away, but now is the time to be proactive and start planning. So I just wanted to kind of put that out there so that you're aware. Obviously, there's nothing to approve, but you will likely see the result of that RFP coming in the not too distant future. So I just want to make sure I'm updating you on that. Kind of in a similar vein, we're moving forward very shortly. You should start to see as early as December that we're going to have some bid packages that are going to be going out for bid on the 6th grade house. And we don't want to let this get too far away from us. Our policies require that we actually have board input and a process for naming facilities. And so we're going to have some facilities that are repurposed. And so I'll probably in my update just be asking for any volunteers that would be interested in being on a naming committee for our new facilities. So I want to make sure that involving you in that. And then lastly, you know, we have Thanksgiving next week. I hope everybody has a wonderful holiday. takes time to spend with their families, and it'll be a much needed break for many, and we're very thankful for the support of this board and for all of the hard work that our staff does every day. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Micah. We'll move on to administrative reports, and we will start with Mr. Kling.
Thank you. Mike Dragoo must have been watching because I have an answer for that question. So we use our trailers to move all of our lawn equipment throughout the district, and that limits the size of lawnmower that we can transport. And additionally, we have a lot of greenery, trees, fences, and the larger machines inhibit us from getting into places we need to get. So
You should have said you came up with the answer.
I don't know. Thanks, Mike. That wasn't really on my report, but I had put it on. Financial audit, obviously, we just had our finance committee meeting. That was really 3 parts. The first part being review of the annual audit. That was also in 3 parts. We reviewed the report to the board. We reviewed the CFA, which is our schedule of federal awards. That's going to be all our federal funds. And then lastly, we reviewed the financial statements, the big packet. The second part, or the second and third part of the meeting, we reviewed our 22-23 financial statements, and then finally we kind of reviewed our budget and projected for the 23-24 year. Moving on, last board meeting I kind of made the comment that we were waiting on the Michigan State Police to review our fleet. That finally did happen, be it late. All of our buses passed with flying colors, so that's a big shout out to Cindy and her whole team in the transportation department for making that happen. I missed the bullet point. A shout out to Steve, Sandy Brazel, and the whole finance team for all their hard work during the audit. Everyone kind of picked up the work and kind of made it as smooth as we could possibly make it. So thank you for everyone in that team, in that department. I'm going to be working with a third-party transportation company, and the point of it is to have a review of our fleet replacement schedule. So I'm working with a couple companies and trying to get quotes on what that might look like for them to give us some outside opinion on how we want to move forward with replacing our fleet. Early stages on that, so more to come. Just wanted to kind of bring that to your attention. Last but not least, as you may be aware, the district over the years just naturally collects equipment and furniture. And this equipment that we collect has either been replaced or it's lived out its useful life here at Novi. Now, normally in my past districts, that's actually a burden because you have to find somebody that needs that equipment, and if you don't find that person, you got to pay somebody to come and get it out of your space and take care of it. Luckily, this year we worked with a company named Bittergy. Ben actually worked with them in his prior district, and he brought them here, and they were fantastic to work with. They have a network that kind of goes all throughout the state. We put it up. I was actually getting texts from other school CFOs saying, "Hey, I saw this was on there. Hey, I saw that was on there." I said, "Well, put it in a bid." And so that was on. We had an auction on the 14th. All of our items sold. All of our old furniture sold, and it was just under $20,000 that we got for all of those items. So instead of being a negative and paying somebody to get it out, we actually gained $20,000. Now, be it we have to do some due diligence and find out what funds purchased this equipment, and then that goes right back into the appropriate funds. But better problem to have than the latter. So that's it.
Awesome. Thanks for all your hard work. It seems like you've been real busy and ready for Thanksgiving break, right?
Ready for turkey.
Great. All right, Dr. Carino.
Thank you. This week we took a team to open schools for the Strengthening Mental Health and Family Engagement series that we have been working on. And so we are excited that Rosalie Johnson has officially started as the Director of Mental Health and Wellness. And so she has hit the ground running to meet all the stakeholders across the district and community partners to begin discussing wellness initiatives throughout the district. We also have been working on revising our administrator evaluations to better evaluate the work that people are actually doing. So we had a fairly generic administrator evaluation prior to this, and so we're really trying to tailor it to people's roles and the work that they do. Denise Landau and Zach Martinez have been working very hard on our REP report, which is a state of Michigan report that basically accounts for every employee that we have. And so it is a very tedious process of making sure that every teacher is teaching content area that fits their certifications and crossing a lot of T's and dotting a lot of I's. So I want to thank them for their hard work and just wish everyone a relaxing Thanksgiving break. It's been a long stretch since the start of the year, and we are just grateful for everyone's work. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Carino. Mr. Jeremini?
Thank you, Dr. Ruskin. I believe this was mentioned last meeting, but I wanted to expand our Sex Education Advisory Board. Continues to meet on an approximately monthly basis. Our next meeting is the last week of November, and we're going to continue our work to design our evaluation rubric for looking at curricular resources. Our optimistic aim, emphasis on optimistic, is to review resources and have recommendations to the board for this spring, and then implementation for 24-25 school year. And then we've just recently launched this year's before-after-school tutoring program. That's headed by Emily Polanski, our amazing Director of Instruction. We are working hard to identify Novi teachers to help provide our students tutors and the support that they need. We did a limited pilot, as you might recall, in the spring in the secondary buildings and during the summer with K-12. And we're really eager to see this program expand and see what we can do with it and what we can achieve. So that's all I have for you tonight.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We will now move on to board communication. Any board members that have something specific they'd like to share? Mr. Mishker?
Yeah, I just want to say I was fortunate enough this last couple weeks to attend the Red Ribbon ceremony at Novi Meadows as a member of the PTO there and get to really see the kids, and they did a great job putting together posters that represented what the Red Ribbon Week meant to them, how they can stay safe, how they can stay substance-free. It was really cool to see everybody's approach. The one that stood out in my mind was a poster that looked like a giant screen of an iPhone, and it had the different slogans and different Red Ribbon things that they were working on in there. I thought that was pretty cool. So that was a great event. Also had our SRO counterparts there teaching the kids about the different elements. So I was also fortunate enough to attend 3 days of the annual leadership conference for the Michigan Association of School Boards. Real quick hitters, the first day I got to attend the law conference, and they went over, I was able to go over a couple of things. They went over basically First Amendment rights with books. I guess the big takeaway there is a big distinction between board authority over what's a textbook and what is in a library or media center. More control over the former, not so much control over the latter, because then it's public and it's more First Amendment right governed. The other thing, they also went over retirement things, which really just apply to Ben and potentially a few of our higher level admins, but some really interesting intricacies that we could probably talk about more, just to make sure that any of our upper level employees, if they need it, are getting their retirement funded, that they get so funded correctly. Title IX, the big update there was there's no update. They thought there was going to be one, and there isn't yet. They just said in general, it was the bar for filing claims was much lower prior to 2020. It got raised significantly, and now they're thinking of swinging back, but the final rules have not been written yet. And then lastly, from the law conference was AI, where I think what I shared with you earlier, but I thought the most fascinating thing about this pick one is that AI hallucinates. In other words, it never doesn't give you an answer. It will always give you something, even if it's completely fictional and made up of random facts that seem real but are complete fantasy. So that was fascinating. The next day, they had a group that did a book, When You're Wondering, You're Learning. It was all about Mr. Rogers' philosophy of education. Really fascinating keynote, and got to attend 2 breakouts. One was on From Disruption to Innovation, where they talked about the MSTEM program that is getting started up in Lansing and applying the 3 Ps, learning problem-based, project-based, and place-based learning. Those were all really fascinating concepts. And later on that day, got to attend a curriculum on how to retain our amazing staff and our educators, and what issues they're facing and what districts can do to help them stay interested, empowered, and impassioned in their career that they chose. And then the last day I was able to attend a CBA class on strategic planning, and I thought the biggest takeaway is very prevalent to what we're doing right now at our board, but the biggest takeaway was they had us do an exercise where we identified things that were on the horizon, like very far off, things that are emerging, things that are established, and things that are disappearing. And it was fascinating to see how the different groups came up with stuff that, maybe things that we might deal with in a couple of years, things that we're starting to deal with, like AI, things that are well established, like standardized testing, and things that may be disappearing that we won't be doing anymore in the future. So that was overall a really good conference. The best part of it, though, was definitely the relationships and being able to learn from other school board members their strengths and struggles in their districts and how they deal with them, and to get to understand their insight and their experiences. So.
Awesome, I'm so glad you got to go. I've been before to Traverse City, but for other board members, especially new board members, they do a summer institute, they do this fall, they do a winter, so as Jason pointed out, it's always just fascinating to hear what other districts are doing and learn from them, the good, the bad, the ugly, probably, things that are working and not working, so I'm really glad that you had an opportunity to go and to collaborate with other board members from around the state. So thank you for attending.
It's kind of like when you hang out with other parents, you realize you're not crazy. And there's a lot of things in common that we all go through.
True. All right, any other board communication? Mr. Cook?
Yeah, I'm probably like all of you, when somebody mentions Novi as the #1 district in the state, you stand a little taller. Last year when that came out, the one number that stood out to me was that we're number 36 in places to teach. And when I mentioned that to Ben, he mentioned the listening tours and getting feedback from the teachers on what they may not like or like in the district. Just that little effect took us from 36 last year, we're still 25th. Imagine if we were first. Where we would be if we had if this was one of the best places to teach. You imagine what would take off out of this district. I just want to thank everybody involved with these listening tours, and I want to urge teachers to speak candidly and let us know what's happening, because we can't affect change if we don't know what to change. In order to make teachers feel more welcome, make teachers feel more wanted and more valued in this district. We all come up here and we say they're valued. They may not feel they're valued. Why aren't they? The other thing that I wanted to ask is a couple of years ago when we changed the start times, there were a few reasons why we did it. Kids not getting enough sleep, figured we'd move it back. And one of the big pieces of data that we were shown for doing that was attendance, especially during first hour. It was astronomically high compared to the other hours. Now that we've had a couple of years there, I'd like to see if those start time changes were effective and those attendance rates improved. There's probably another number of other things that the later start times have affected, but they're not quite as measurable. And it goes back to what we try to do all the time, is if we implement something, we want to circle back and make sure that that implementation made the effect that we wanted it to, or if it caused other effects that we did not know about. So I guess I would like to see that data.
Awesome. Thank you, Mr. Cook, and thank you for always bringing your curiosity to the table. I appreciate you, and you're always so data-driven, so I think that's awesome. I appreciate it. Any other comments from the board?
We'll go in order real
Okay.
quick.
Thanks, Mr. Swin.
Ben mentioned it, but I also was able to join the Michigan Career Quest this past week at the Suburban Collection Show place, and that was my first time attending something like that, and I want to thank Jennifer and the team from the high school for organizing that and getting the kids there. It just has never been on my radar, I mean, my first two kids ended up applying to Michigan State and had a career path that was going to be driven by curriculum and studies and advanced degrees and master's programs. But I would encourage anyone that hasn't been to something like that to go show up, because it was pretty impressive. I mean, obviously that's a big building, we've probably all been in there, but you could not replicate what our kids got a chance to participate in if we tried to do it here or at the high school. I mean, they had everything from, fire trucks and ambulances and cranes and diggers and pontoon boats and 500 horsepower Yamaha outboards. I mean, it was really cool. And then they broke it down between health sciences and construction and IT and mechanics, and Vanek Robotics was there, and they had, technicians with robotic surgery devices, and it was pretty cool. And the kids that were there, I think, really appreciated the opportunity to see what else might be out there. I just want to thank, again, the team that made that happen, and thank my partner Jason Smith, Friends of Novi Schools, for contributing to make sure our kids got there and got home. So that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Any other board communication? Okay. Happy Thanksgiving. I hope everyone takes time to be with their family and their friends and rest up a little bit. And then we just have a few more weeks after that until it's winter break, right, Dr. Carino? I see you smiling over there. And thank you to Ms. Holly for always taking care of us here at the board table when we have long days and meetings back to back. So appreciate you. All right, can we get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
Do we have support?
Support.
Recommended by Mr. Mishner and supported by Mrs. Roney. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Thank you.
Thank you.